Apple is overpriced. It's the most oft-repeated phrase I've heard uttered in my 18 years making YouTube videos. The thing is, for most of that time, that's been broadly correct. You paid the Apple tax in order to get the Apple experience. And if you wanted in cheap, well, you had to buy used, or really old. And look, that can still be true today. I mean, my actual daily driver Apple setup is an iPhone Air, an Apple Watch Ultra, an M5 iPad Pro, an M5 MacBook Pro, not even a fancy one, just the base model, and AirPods Pro 3, which totals out to an eye-watering near $7,000. But then answer me this. How is it that I just walked out of an Apple store with a complete current generation ecosystem touching those same 5 categories, an iPhone, a MacBook, an iPad, an Apple Watch, and AirPods for $1,925? And that's at Apple. With halfway decent sales stacked on top, you could get this stuff on Amazon for less than $1,700. All of this for less than just the cost of my iPad without the keyboard. Less than the cost of a Galaxy Fold 7, less than the cost of an upper mid-range gaming PC in 2026. Now, to be clear, Apple isn't new to having budget-oriented options. The entry-level iPad has always lived under $400, at least it has for a decade. But they haven't always been compelling. I mean, the iPhone SE always had this weird, like, we put the newest chip in a hand-me-down chassis energy. The cheap MacBook Air was, well, just an old one. It was the M1 sold at Walmart. But the times, they haven't changed. The Neo hits a budget price point without feeling dated, or frankly, without feeling budget. The iPhone 17e looks like a tubby iPhone Air, which isn't an insult, it's a compliment. And the Apple Watch SE 3 and the standard AirPods 4 are doing what they've always done, and that is offer 80% of the flagship performance for, well, half the cost. Add it all up, and for the first time, Apple has a genuinely competitive budget option in every single product category they sell. The whole ecosystem, at a price that sits honestly against non-Apple, also budget alternatives. I guess the question I have is whether or not any of this is any good in your actual life, because here's where I have to be honest. I really have no idea. None of us in the tech reviewer racket really do. We review a low-end Apple product, go, yeah, it's pretty good. And then we go right back to our flagships the second the cameras stop rolling. And the honest answer to is cheap stuff actually good long-term needs a longer term. So that's what I'm going to be doing. For the next 30 days, all of this pro gear is going into a drawer. I will only be using the hardware that you see here. No slipping back to my OLED iPad Pro because I want to watch a movie. No grabbing the Apple Watch Ultra because I'm worried about battery life on a long day. And at the end of the month, I'm going to come back with a final verdict on each one of these products, be them genuinely good, acceptable, but with compromises, or something that is bad enough I'd talk my family members out of them. But I guess that's hard to do with all the stuff still in its box, huh? So let's get into it. Starting with the device we all use the most, the iPhone. Okay, so I have been on the iPhone Air since launch. I'm probably one of the few reviewers who is actually stuck with this thing. I love it. The screen size is really what kind of kept me, what's won me over, because it's right in between the regular pro-sized iPhone, I guess also the regular iPhone, and I also think the 17e, it's in between all of them. Wow, that was the saddest pull tab I've ever seen on an Apple product. That's a little better. And the iPhone 17 Pro Max. And oh yeah, wow. Okay, this is like a lot smaller. Look at that. So this is right in between this and the Max, which is just absolutely enormous. And I think what makes this okay for me, being this large, is the thinness. It's really what has won me over. Because my wife's iPhone 17 Pro, not Max, just regular Pro, feels very chubby and unwieldy, despite being quite literally smaller in the hand. I think it comes down to just my whole hand being able to wrap around this thing. I will tell you, there is a definite difference here. But this feels already much less substantial in a bad way. Well, I guess in a good way. This feels better to me than the iPhone 17 Pro. Also, that is like the dustiest I've ever seen a product come out of an Apple box. You saw me open it. Although, look, I gotta say, the design of this thing, oh, yeah, that's always a good peel. And look at that, they still give you a USB-C cable. No charging box, no stickers, but beggars can't be choosers, huh? You only paid $600 for the thing. The iPhone 17e is freaking gorgeous. I mean, this is just a beautiful looking phone. And interestingly, the glass color is quite a bit different. The iPhone Air is like a lot bluer than this. I prefer the iPhone 17e. And the aluminum feels really, really nice, where I feel it feels kind of cheap on the Pro phones because I'm used to the titanium of the Air. It actually feels really nice on here, and I think it's because it doesn't wrap all the way around. It's still got this kind of more squared off version. This is truly like the modern iPhone 4. This is a gorgeous phone. It's better looking than the Air because you don't have this weird looking camera plateau. And your flash isn't all the way over here in another country. Although, look at the sizes between those two flashes. This thing is tiny, and this flash is smaller than the Pro flash. Also, fun flash fact. Check this out. You know how on the iPhone 17 Pro you can adjust the beam pattern? Yeah, you can't do that on the Air because it doesn't have the multiple different LED colors and then like positions. So you just have on or off and that's it. But what I will say is that the iPhone Air's flash is brighter than the iPhone 17 Pro's, which is nice. I don't think this one will be brighter. The display is very yellow. I guess True Tone might be on, but that's not a good looking display. And those bezels that's bezel-licious. I mean, you can see the difference between that and my Air. Here's the thing. The two things that bug me about the Air are kind of still a problem on here. The camera, it's fine for casual stuff. I actually like the slightly tighter 26mm focal length. The Pro phones are 24mm, but the second I need any zoom, I found myself reaching for my Fujifilm because there's just no telephoto capabilities on this at all. And the minute you start to do the digital crop beyond the standard 2x, it's terrible. My daughter is the reason that I started carrying a real camera again. And the other problem with this device is the battery is mediocre. It's serviceable, but it does not make it through the full day. Like I'm lucky to get it all the way through the day, even with the MagSafe battery pack thing, which I don't usually use. I just plop it on the charger throughout the day. But the 17E should have great battery life because the 16E had amongst the best battery life in the lineup. And this has the standard A19. And even though this has the Pro chip, I mean, look at the thinness. This thing throttles and gets super hot, and it's not the same. Like technically it's the same SKU as what you get on the Pro phones, but because you have no vapor chamber, like I would bet that these two are closer in performance than this is to the Pro. However, this does have 12 gigs of memory and this has 8, which is a bummer. Oh yeah, and the notch. I didn't even remember the notch because honestly, who cares? Like it doesn't look bad. Sure, the dynamic island looks a little bit better. It's a little more modern, but you still have live activities, I believe, on the notch. And so like, who really cares? It's not like the dynamic island is so special that it's, and in terms of like actual width, yeah, I guess the notch is a little wider, but we're splitting hairs. It's really not that big of a deal. And because the rest of the phone matches the more modern design language, I don't feel like the notch makes it feel dated like the old SEs used to be with their home button. Like this looks and feels like a modern iPhone. It is beautiful. But beauty is not everything. They have to hit a price. Wi-Fi 7, you don't get that. It's Wi-Fi 6, and that is a bummer. But one thing that the 17E actually does get is the C1X modem. So the cellular performance on this should be really, really excellent, which is great. And it should be efficient from a battery standpoint. Oh yeah! One of my favorite things about the new iPhones is the Ceramic Shield 2, which is so fantastic. I cannot tell you how many times I've dropped my iPhone Air, it's slid across concrete, it's gone down a hill on a road, and it's just fantastic. Like I have the tiniest little scratch here in the corner, and that's it. And the iPhone 17E also gets Ceramic Shield 2 on the front. I'm not gonna do that on the back because this still has the older Ceramic Shield, which will break. But that's the same as the standard iPhone 17. And to see them putting that new, nice, really, really great glass, which extends longevity, even on their cheapest model, is great. So I guess what I'll be testing is whether or not the drop to 60 Hertz ruins it, whether or not the smaller screen feels cramped, and whether or not the same camera, even though the specs are the same, I don't think they're the same. At least the glass is different because the lens assembly on the iPhone Air is significantly larger. Maybe that's the distance to the sensor? I don't know. I'm not a smartphone camera man. And $599. I guess the complaint about this was that it's just a little bit too close in cost to the standard iPhone. But honestly, the difference between those two phones, the gap is decreasing like every single year. You get an extra camera and ultra wide on the regular iPhone, but other than that, like, who cares? I cannot get over how pretty this is. This is a beautiful phone. After my iPhone, my AirPods Pro 3 are the single most used Apple product that I own. Calls, music, video, podcasts, sleep, they're in my ears for several hours per day. They are always in my pocket. They are indispensable. House on fire, they're in the bag. Conversely, I have already unboxed and reviewed the AirPods 4. These are not a new unit. I didn't go out and buy some new ones because, well, why would I? I already know what to think, and I will tell it to you straight. They're AirPods, so the magic still works. Instant pairing, ecosystem switching, the stuff that makes AirPods feel like cheating. That all carries over. But the sound is unexceptional. It is a real step down from the AirPods Pro 3, which I think are a step down from the Pro 2, sonically at least. And the 4s are just not gonna hold a candle to them. And the issue is frankly fit. Because you have no tip, there is no silicone creating passive isolation, you have no seal. And so bass disappears. If you've got the ANC variant like I do, the noise cancellation is fine, but it's not exceptional. It is genuinely impressive for an open fit, I guess, but you're not canceling that much noise. And if you have the base AirPods 4 with no ANC, going from the 3s to these would be brutal. I will not subject myself to that. I will use the 4s with ANC, but I mean, the case is small and really cute, which I like, but the math just doesn't work because these are available for $99 without ANC. With ANC, you're looking at about $150, and that's on the kind of Amazon pricing market, whereas the AirPods Pro 3 are already available for $199, and you can find the Pro 2s still available in old stock inventory for about the same price as the AirPods 4, which just, why? Why would you get these? No, but because of the love of the game, I will do it. And who knows, maybe after a month, I'll come back thinking, oh, you know what? I really like these. They are more comfortable. So they've got that going for them. This is the one thing. I really don't want to give these up. Then we still have to do this video. Alternatively, you can check out today's sponsor, and you may want to. These are the Anker Soundcore Liberty 5 Pro and 5 Pro Max, and they are really, really neat. They hold the Guinness World Record for the clearest TWS earbud calls, and that's not marketing fluff. It's based on a GMOS speech quality score awarded by an accredited independent lab, where the Liberty 5 Pro beat 13 flagship competitors head-to-head. And yeah, I mean, it's legit. I've got my loudspeakers here, cranked up, playing cafe chatter, club noise, basically every awful sound you can think of, and just take a listen. The background's at 90 decibels, and yet, and as you can tell, despite being really loud in here, it does pick up my voice. The same as not true as those headphones I mentioned previously. Yeah, the gap is brutal. Practically speaking, that means that you can take an important call from a busy sidewalk or a loud cafe without ducking into a stairwell first, which, if you take a lot of meetings on the go, as much as I do, is a pretty big deal. And that's largely thanks to the AI Thus chip that's found inside Anker's first compute-in-memory audio chip with 150 times the compute of the previous generation. And a 10-sensor array involving 8 microphones helps pick up your voice through not just the microphones, but also via bone conduction. But it doesn't stop just there. ANC is excellent, the customized sound profiles are great, and the music sounds shockingly good. Even as an audiophile, I was pretty impressed. Now, the two Liberty 5 models, these are not competing against each other. Pro Max offers everything that the Pro does, but with this beautiful AMOLED touchscreen on the charging case that you can use to swap ANC modes, you can control audio, you can even rock a custom wallpaper like the one you see on mine right now, all without pulling out your phone. It even extends to a built-in AI note taker. Check this out. I push record, it starts going, and it handles a summary with speaker labels and a to-do list and everything. No phone, no separate recorder. You don't even have the earbuds, like there's a microphone in the case. It's pretty cool. The Liberty 5 Pro and Pro Max are available now from $169. Nice. And Soundcore is running a 30-day try before you buy program on their site where you get zero money up front. They just send them to you, and if you don't like them, you send them back. No money changes hands. Pretty sweet. The link is in the video description below. The M5 iPad Pro is by a comfortable margin my most used computer. Email, research, browsing, news, video, scripting, it almost all happens on here. And part of it is because the Tandem OLED display is just fantastic. It is the best screen in my house, and it's not even close. So moving to the iPad, the cheap iPad is gonna be a thing. The thing that I'm dreading the most is the 120 hertz downgrade. Also, can we just, like, what is with this box? This is so beat up. This is one that I will admit I got from Amazon, not from the Apple Store, because it was $50 less, but. The iPad boxes have never been satisfying. Again, there is crap inside of here. What is happening to Apple's quality control? Is this made in Vietnam or China? Vietnam. I'm telling you, the made in Vietnam stuff is still really good, but there's just a little bit of like lacking QC that you don't find in the made in China stuff. Still got nice paper. I got pink. Why did I get pink? Because it's cheapest. And also, this is like a really nice pink, I must say. It's not the blush that you find on the MacBook Neo. It's very, I mean, it's definitely pinker than that, but it's not the nasty salmony flesh color you get on all the rose gold products that Apple's released. It's actually quite nice. Oh, look at that. Because it's not a phone, but it's a computer, they give you a 20 watt? Yeah, 20 watt power adapter. Yeah, the thing I think I'm dreading most is the drop from 120 hertz. Look, there is a lazy take that normal people don't care about ProMotion, that they don't even know if you tell them about it. And that's true, but they perceive it. Every time my wife uses her iPad Air, she says to me, this feels laggy. It's not laggy. It's a slower refresh rate display. Her brain notices even if she doesn't know what she's seen, or if she looks at them side by side, she can't really tell the difference. And oh my goodness, that was laggy. Okay. That might have just been because we were booting up. No, there's like visible frame drop in here. Oh, look at those bezels. Those are chunk-alicious, which honestly, bezels on an iPad, it's fine. Because look, you have a nice place to put your thumb. I actually prefer bigger bezels on a tablet and wish they were a little bigger on the Pro. Oh my gosh, holding these two is like not even in the same ballpark. This is gonna be hard. Look at this. Like the thickness differences are unbelievable. This is the Wi-Fi only model because again, I'm buying the cheapest stuff and that's gonna be hard. I have really come to like cellular on the iPad Pro. This M5 iPad Pro is my first iPad with cellular, and I was always the guy that was like, cellular's dumb, just tether it to your phone, it's not a big deal. And all the cellular people are like, no, you don't get it. Once you have a cellular iPad, you can never go back. And I was like, okay, I get it now. Like tethering is not that hard, but when you don't have to do it ever, and you're just always connected, no matter where you are, it's nice. Yeah, so I can already tell I'm just dropping frames. Now this is an earlier build of iPadOS 26. It has gotten a lot better, but I think that this might just be the silicon. It's an A16, which is a cheap chip. And this is also only using 6 gigabytes of RAM as opposed to, I believe, 16 on my iPad Pro. Yeah, that's a difference. And the display, now that I'm looking at it, it looks perfectly okay, but it is non-laminated, which is a bummer. There's a clear gap in between the glass and the display itself. And when you touch it, it does feel like you're not quite touching the content. It's a subtle difference, but it's there. And oh yeah, given that this only has an A16 and 6 gigs of memory, you don't get Apple Intelligence. Oh, rats! It may take a few minutes to activate your iPad. Why do we still have to do this whole thing? Activate with who? Apple, I guess? Got Touch ID, that's another real bummer. Not because Touch ID or fingerprint sensors are inherently bad, it's because this Touch ID sensor is bad. It wasn't that good when it came out. Touch ID in general, even on the Mac, is not very good. I mean, ultrasonic fingerprint sensors on high-end Android phones are excellent. This is not that. Oh, multitasking and windowing. Okay. So you do get the new windowing environment and presumably Stage Manager, even though you don't have that much memory, which is fascinating. You won't be able to open that many apps, I reckon. Yeah, check that out, Stage Manager. Oh, this is gonna be a thing. This is gonna be a thing. Oh, there we go. How many windows can you do? Wow, we've got 8 open and it's still fine. Let's keep going. Yo, dog. I heard you liked apps. That's great. Okay, so it does look like you are limited to 8. Like they're all visible on the stage, but they're not actually open. But 6 gigs of memory? Come on, that's awesome. And you know what? It feels really crappy. Wow. Look at that. Hold on. Can you see that as that shrinks down? it's not drawing the whole app icon. There's like a little clear square around it. Okay, wow. This is like, you can measure this animation in frames per minute. It's really bad. You do have to keep in mind though, $350. Not even really that. I bought this for $299 on Amazon. That's not very much money for what is still an iPad. I'm running all the same stuff, Stage Manager, everything. Now, you don't have the floating Magic Keyboard. You do have USB-C, but you only have the first gen pencil support and then the new like Apple Pencil that's the USB-C one. So it doesn't do tilt, it doesn't do gyroscope, it doesn't do hover. You've only got external display support in terms of mirroring. There's no display spanning that you get on the Pros, but like that's power user iPad stuff. And this is just gonna be an iPad for people that wanna use an iPad, but damn, it's slow. Look at that. It's not even following my finger. You know, my daughter's still too little. We're not doing screen time, but I can see why these things are a hit with kids, especially because I get that the Fire tablets are like not that, they're less money than this, but it's a Fire tablet. I mean, the App Store and parental controls on the iPad are quite good and $300 and Touch ID is fine. How's the camera? Wow, honestly, they both look really crappy. The iPad Pro is better. Like, there's way more noise over here, but they're both truly bad. Next up, Apple Watch. I have been on the Apple Watch Ultra 2 since launch. I charge it nightly. Sometimes my daughter knocks it off the nightstand, and so I start the day with like 60%. But honestly, I still spend a lot of days just not wearing it at all. Today I've got a Zodiac Aerospace GMT on. What a fantastic looking watch. And that's largely because I have an Oura Ring. So that's doing a lot of the fitness tracking and sleep tracking that I would want the Apple Watch to do. And I don't use my Apple Watch for notifications all that often because I have my phone in my pocket or I have my computer on my desk. And so don't tap my wrist. I'm good. I need to detox a little bit, okay? But it is a much better fitness tracker than the Oura, and probably even better than the upcoming Fitbit Air, though I am interested in that. The problem is that the Ultra is massive. Ultimately, it's a 49mm slab of titanium on a wrist that probably wants a 40 or a 42 at the biggest. It's got an action button that's mapped to my stopwatch because if I put it on literally anything else, I will just bump it consistently all the time forever. Because I'm not a big Apple Watch guy, I will admit that when I started planning this video, I thought that the SE3 was gonna be some enormous, meaningful downgrade, but I was wrong because Apple has spent 3 years quietly updating the watch's features to basically be flagship even at the entry-level model. I do like the packaging, by the way, that they do on these. You've got the watch, presumably, and then they just put your band in. Not very nicely presented because they do this at the Apple Store. It was upside down and backwards. Oh man, this is not the premium experience I wanted. No, it's fine. Curiously, this has come down in price a lot. One of the reasons I didn't like the original Apple Watch SE is because it was $350. It was not that much less money than the regular version. This is available for $250 and you can find it on Amazon often for under $200, which is fantastic. And they also give you much more than just the basic band option that you would get on Amazon, which is typically the silicone one, which is fine, but it's just like, oh, I have the cheap Apple Watch. This is the Nike Run one that is this Sport Loop. This is the same price. There's no difference, but I like it. I think it looks nice. You've got some Velcro. Got a decent pull there. You've got the Nike logo. It says Run, which is not a concept I'm familiar with. And then you've got the watch itself, which, wow, that's a really, really thin package. And they've torn it. We've had some pretty crappy pulls today. Maybe that's just not a very good pull experience. Oh. Wow, that drops out a lot more aggressively than the iPad. Let's try that one more time. Here we go, you ready? All right. We have the watch itself. Again, I went with the cheapest options. So this is the 40mm, not the 44. It is very small, but I am still young. I have good eyes and I like the look of a small watch on a wrist, even a larger wrist, a man's wrist, which, despite being bullied in high school, I still believe myself to be. One of the things that I also forgot that I really like they've moved away from is that original Apple Watch charger that was plastic. Remember they had the stainless steel was the one on the high end one, but then if you had the cheap Apple Watch, it was plastic. You've got aluminum even on the cheapest Apple Watch SE, which is nice. I do still, I mean, I get why they have a magnetic charger. It's better than a pogo pin based charger, which still most smartwatches tend to use, but I wish it would just somehow work with MagSafe or Qi or something else, because having to carry around another charger is kind of a pain in the butt when you travel. But here's the watch itself. And it is blue? Is this midnight? Oh. Hold on. Midnight. I thought this was black. I hate midnight. Midnight is the dumbest color because it's like almost black, but it's not. It's blue. Does it? And it looks kind of weird with this band. Ah, frick! That is the downside to choosing this cheap watch, is you get midnight, which is blue, or you get starlight, which is champagne colored. Is it called starlight? Yeah. Starlight, moonlight? No, midnight. Space, how does it work? All right, let's put it on. I'm gonna take off the Ultra, and then I'm gonna put this thing on. And I will tell you that it's not a huge strap. They don't make this specific model in small, medium, large. They do with many of the straps, but not this one. So if you had a really big wrist, I could see this being an issue, but it's fine. It's just you have to kind of stretch it to get it on. But I must say, that actually looks pretty nice. I like the wear of the strap. This little top flap comes off a little bit further than I would like. That's true on the regular Sport Loop too. Sometimes it gets caught on something and unloosens, but you have enough hook and loop, not Velcro, you have enough hook and loop segments that it's not gonna just come clean off your arm. And even if it did, like you're gonna have to try to lose this thing. Now, because the SE3 was just updated this year, that means that it actually measures quite comparably to the rest of the Apple Watch lineup. The SE3 has the S10 silicon in it that's present on all the other higher end watches. There is no S10 Pro, there's no S11. This has got the latest generation tech, and it's actually newer silicon than what's found in my Apple Watch Ultra 2. And in terms of feature parity, it's also surprising what they've put into this device. They both have sleep apnea detection. They both have sleep score. They both have skin temperature. They both have always on displays. They both have fast charging. They both have double tap and wrist flick. It's great. What you are missing is ECG, so that sensor is gone, and you're also missing blood oxygen. But what's curious is that sleep apnea, for example, which does leverage the sleep oxygen sensor on the devices that have it, doesn't require it on this, and I think that's probably partially due to the Massimo lawsuit, where it was disabled in the US, and so they got really good at their algorithms detecting sleep apnea even without blood ox, which is pretty cool. Now, there are other downgrades. Moving from 49 millimeters at a 3000 nit display to 40 millimeters at 1000 is 100% going to be noticeable outdoors. And my 36-hour battery life, which given that this is a few years old, is no longer that good, is going to be closer to 18. You also move from titanium to aluminum on the case itself, and then the back of this is completely composite. This is plastic, even this back kind of section here, but it's against your wrist. Who cares? Honestly, I like it because it makes it feel very, very light. There are other downgrades. You don't have dual frequency GPS. It's just single. So if you were using this independent of your phone, like on the cellular variant, to do running or cycling or walking tracking in a larger city, that would be a downside. You benefit from dual frequency GPS. Water resistance is in 100 meters. It's 50 meters. Who cares? You can still get in the pool. You can still get this thing wet, but you do lose the dive features. There's no depth gauge. There's no siren, all the stuff that's kind of on the Ultra, which to be frank, I haven't really been using anyway. And then cellular is still optional. So it's $249 without cellular, $299 with, which is great because for a long time on the Apple Watch, it was like way more money to get the cellular model, and that's not true anymore. So I guess the question is the SE3 as good as the Ultra 2? Because it's not. The question is whether or not the gap is worth $550 and whether I'm just the kind of guy who's been wearing an oversized Ultra because I wanted to be a guy with an Ultra rather than because I felt like I needed any of the features, because if I'm being honest with you, I don't. Let me let you in on a little secret. Unlike some lovable nut jobs, Marquez, I'm looking at you. I don't edit my own videos. Benjamin does. He's wavy. There he is. So what am I doing on my laptop? Well, pretty light stuff. Email, scripting, web usage. A lot of what would happen on my Mac is now happening on my iPad because it can instead. That's why I use my iPad so much. So in theory, the Neo should be like a slam dunk for me for what I actually do. In theory. Here's the problem, folks. I've been doing a ton of agentic coding lately, and even on my M5 MacBook Pro with 16 gigs of memory, that workflow puts this machine under serious pressure. And the Neo has just 8 gigabytes of RAM with no option to upgrade ever, even at the time of purchase. I've never even looked in the bottom of this box. What's in here? Do you get it? You get a power brick, I would assume. Yeah, the same 20 watts. It's wild. The thing they used to include with your phone. They're like, here's your laptop charger. Because it is, in fact, a phone. You've seen the review already. The chip is an A18 Pro from the iPhone 16 Pro. And Geekbench and other benchmarks puts it roughly in M1 territory on multi-core and M3-ish territory on single core. Not bad. In fact, really pretty good for $599. The 8 gigabyte ceiling, that's what's going to bite me. I already know it. Now the display is 13 inches. It's a liquid retina display. It's the MacBook Air display, but it peaks at 500 nits instead of 600 like the MacBook Air. But it's a pretty good panel. I actually think it's a much better panel on this product than it is on the Air, where the Air is now feeling very dated, and this feels competent and good. It's pretty bright. It does have an ambient light sensor, which I got wrong in my video. Turns out we had the setting disabled, but it's very aggressive. I don't think it is a very good one where it's always putting the brightness too low. And it's in the voiceover section that I remember. One of the things that I also don't think I mentioned in the review, the speakers suck. No, I mentioned that. I'm a thorough reviewer. Kind of okay because I'm always in AirPods anyway. The trackpad is, yes, a mechanical click, but the reality is I tap to click. So whatever. And the build quality itself feels nicer than I think it has any right to. The thing that actually breaks my workflow, other than the 8 gigs of memory, is external display output. One external 4K display at 60 Hertz is what you're limited to, period. And in that office over there, where I'm currently running a Mac Mini, but will not because I'm not using higher end stuff, only the budget stuff, which technically the Mac Mini is, but I don't have the Mac Mini. I have the Mac Mini with the M4 Pro, yada, 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 yada. I'm running 2 studio displays at that desk, and the Neo straight up can't even do one of those displays at full resolution. You get no Thunderbolt, you get 2 USB-C ports, one of which is only USB 2. USB 2 in 2026. Now, I am cheating a little bit because this is not the very, very minimum. I am using the Touch ID model, but that's not because of Touch ID. I don't care about that. I just need 512 gigs of storage. 256 would not work, and I would not do this experiment if I couldn't get away with having.
Have you ever had a dream that
What I do mean to say is that I want to do this test legitimately, and if I got the lowest end model without enough storage, I would just stop using this machine, and that would defeat the purpose of the whole test. I need to have the capacity that I require. One thing I didn't notice in my review, I've noticed it. I noticed it when they unveiled it because my attention to detail is incredible. I like the glyphs that they've replaced on the MacBooks in favor of the full written out words. Ironically, they still continue to write out Command Option Control. Perhaps that's not ironic because nobody knows what the frick this symbol means. And Shift, Caps Lock, Tab, Backspace, Return, Shift. Those are all pretty simple. But yeah, it's clean. I like it. I don't really love the yellow keyboard on this model. I've been wanting to make a watermelon version because my wife has the pink. So I want to do a pink trackpad and pink keyboard on the green laptop, but that would require that I ask my wife for the brand new computer, which I just got her after I had borrowed her M1 Air for quite some time, and say, hey, can I pull this entire thing apart and make it ugly? Because I want the cool watermelon one. You can have the inverse one with the Shrek keyboard on your pink laptop. And while we did review this machine, and I think we did a pretty good review, I didn't use it as my primary machine. And there will be no better indicator to me that 8 gigabytes is just not enough than having no other option but to use 8 gigabytes. So, yeah. Well, that's the haul. That's all the gear that I'm going to be using over the next 30 days. I promise I'm not going to be using anything else. I'm not excited about it, but I'm going to, oh no, wait. Does that mean I'm gonna have to cover WWDC on this old? No! Well, folks, that's all from me. What have I showed you today that you already have? What's the stuff that you'd be willing to compromise on a little bit? And what's the stuff that, no, you just require flagship performance? Let me know in the comments down below. But most importantly, and as always, stay snazzy. See you later, folks.